What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We're here with some more NFL DFS picks and lineup advice for DraftKings and FanDuel. This time for the single game showdown slate. Week 17 Monday Night Football is the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. Welcome. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner. Unfortunately, this is the last regular season showdown video here on the YouTube channel. There is a Monday night game during Wild Card weekend, so we'll do a showdown video for that. But don't worry, we'll have videos for this week's Saturday two-game slate. We'll have videos for the main slate, and of course, all of the playoff slates as well. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel for that. This game tonight is incredibly interesting. We'll talk about the injuries and the playoff motivations, low risk lineup construction tips. I don't know if there's such a thing for tonight, and a lot of high risk angles for the largest prizes on DraftKings and FanDuel. You see on screen here last night, this is from the GPP. This is a $400 GPP. Took down third place with a underperforming tight end captain, and also won a $4,000 ticket with this lineup. So Showdown's been extremely profitable the past few weeks and all season. So stick around if you want some more of these tips. If you're new to these videos, you're wondering why should I listen to this guy, we got the results to prove it. So let's start with tonight. I'll go over to DraftKings here, but we have to start with the playoff motivation for both of these teams. Now, San Francisco is eliminated. They have nothing to play for. But the biggest question are the Detroit Lions and what they will do. Now, how it's worked out based on how the games unfolded yesterday. This game means absolutely nothing for Detroit. They can't move up or down in the seedings based on the outcome of tonight's game. Now, there is a slight chance where if they win tonight and they tie in Week 18, that could make an impact. I'm not. If I was in this position, if you were in this position, you would probably rest your players. However, Dan Campbell said they are not resting their guys. Next week, Week 18, is winner take all versus Minnesota. Whoever wins gets the one seed in the playoffs and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Extremely important game. This game means nothing. But Dan Campbell already said, let's pull up the quote. This is what he said. He said, I'll make this easy for everyone. All the critics can jump out, including me probably in this video. But he said that we're bringing everything to this game. We are playing. Don't care what it looks like. We're playing to win out on the West Coast. I don't know why you mentioned out on the West Coast. Everyone knows where this game is tonight. But they are playing to win this game. They're going to play their starters. Now, this is a bit different, right? Like if this was college football or even like preseason NFL where there are 90-man rosters, you can easily, in those scenarios, bench your top guys, play all backups, and not worry about any of your top guys, offense or defense, getting hurt. However, when you have 52-man rosters, it's pretty difficult to rest a lot of guys. Maybe they pull them early. Dan Campbell doesn't strike me as the type of guy to pull players early based on his quotes. And if you even ask the idea to any Detroit beat reporter, they immediately get defensive and said, no, they're playing to win this game. So that should tell us that we should expect full workloads for the Detroit players tonight. Now, what is super baffling to me is the spread in the total. Because giving that information and giving the injuries I'm about to tell you, nothing makes sense about the spread and the total in combination. Detroit are 3.5 road favorites here, 3.5 point road favorites here, and the total's 50.5. Why is Detroit only a 3.5 point favorite? That sounds like a spread where they might rest some guys or pull some guys early. But if that was the case, the total wouldn't be 50. It would be much lower. So that doesn't make sense, right? Because once you look at San Francisco's injuries, I'll talk about here in a second. A spread of 3.5 makes absolutely zero sense for one of the best teams in football. I know it's on the road, it's on the West Coast. It just doesn't make any sense. I feel like they would be 14, 17 point favorites at home in this spot, and that doesn't reflect a 3.5 point road favorite. So I would love to hear what you guys think, right? Once I get through all this, comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Is the betting markets wrong? Am I wrong? Is Detroit going to rest guys? Will the injuries for San Francisco not actually impact the game that much? Let me know. I want to hear your opinions. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think, what to make of all this information. Because that's all we're doing in these videos. When we're playing these slates, we're trying to take all the information we have at hand and we're trying to predict what's going to happen. And that's all we can do. So everyone is playing with incomplete information. These types of slates, though, are the types of slates where we can get a huge edge on the field because we're not just blindly playing projections. So let's talk about these injuries. Detroit has no new injuries, right? David Montgomery's still not going to play. Khalif Raymond's still not going to play. But other than that, no guys are in the injury report. And I know if you're a Detroit fan, you're saying don't ever say Detroit and healthy in the same sentence. Yes, I know they have like 25 players on injury reserve. Yes. But nobody new from last week is out or injured. And again, if this was a situation where they had a few guys on the injury report who were banged up and questionable, some nagging injuries, yeah, you can rest those guys. They don't even have those. Nobody on the injury report is questionable. It's two guys that are out, and that's it. So you don't even have the potential injury rest situations. Now, San Francisco, this is where it gets extremely interesting. They are down their top three left tackles: Trent Williams, injured reserve; Jalen Moore, injured reserve; Spencer Burford, replaced him last week. Guess what? He's out too. Three left tackles are out. Number one, number two, then a guy they signed, he's out as well. They're signing literally a guy off someone else's practice squad to start at left tackle tonight. Okay, that's not great. Oh yeah, by the way, their left guard, Aaron Banks, he's out too. Entire left side of the offensive line, decimated. Oh yeah, guess what? Their right tackle, Colton McKivitz, not one of their normal starters. He could be out too. Did not practice Friday or Saturday for this game. They signed another player off the street who could start at right tackle. Obviously, when you look at offensive line play, and we talk about offensive line injuries a lot in these videos as huge edges for fantasy projections and even betting as well, there's two factors to offensive line play. There's individual talent, which is obviously huge. If you don't have individually talented players, it's hard to have a good offensive line. But then the second part is cohesion. How well and how often these guys play together. Typically, we see offensive line play get better, even if the individual talent isn't as great. But when guys play more and more together, because there's so much communication that happens along the offensive line, picking up blitzes, picking up defensive rushes, in the run game as well. And when you have two guys off the street, and then two more backups playing, that cohesion is it's not even zero, it's negative. So we have massive, massive offensive line problems for the 49ers. In the industry, and I say the industry, I'm meaning maybe Vegas, but definitely fantasy projections are not accounting for this. If we look at any industry site, all the biggest sites, they're projecting San Francisco players as normal. 50-point total and 3-point spread is projecting San Francisco as normal, when this is far from a normal situation when it comes to offensive line. I'm truly baffled by the projections, which I get. Most fantasy projections don't take into account offensive line play. This is disastrous, though. And the fact that Vegas isn't taken into account means something is really weird with this situation, because it's going to be extremely hard. I know Detroit's had their defensive injuries, but they haven't had any new injuries the last couple of weeks, and they're playing together as a unit. I could go out there and play defensive line against three backup linemen here. So all this is to say, this is a massive downgrade to the San Francisco offense. We haven't even got to the defensive side of the ball yet. Their top corner, Charvarius Ward, he's out too, celebrating the birth of his child. Okay, cool. Dre Greenlaw, who they've been without for most of the year, this is understandable. He's out as well. But Charvarius Ward's a big downgrade for their defense, especially the outside pass catchers, Jameson Williams, Tim Patrick, for the Detroit Lions. The only good news is they do get Isaac Guerendo back here at running back, and he's off the injury report. He'll be a full go at running back. This is crazy. 3-point spread. And then you look at how the field is building. All the San Francisco projections are much better than Detroit players for the most part, outside of Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe the industry is projecting a little bit of workload decrease for Detroit players. But to me, dude, this is I'm baffled. There's some incredible leverage in this game to be played. Let's talk about low-risk contests really quickly. 50-50s, double-ups, head-to-heads. Have to beat half the field to double your money. You know we like to play both quarterbacks, both running backs, specifically in these types of contests to try to capture all the scoring. And we could do that, right? We could play both quarterbacks and both running backs. And then we have to punt one spot and then play a mid-range player. You could do something like one of these guys who you think might get some work. Jamar Jefferson, Baki, some of these backup players for Detroit who could get a little bit of extra run. Chris Conley, maybe someone like Jacob Cowing who ran 9 routes last week for San Francisco, and then you could play Detroit's defense. I get it, but there's too much uncertainty here with the spread, all these shenanigans with the game being so close and the total being so high, Detroit's lack of motivation for this game, San Francisco being eliminated. I think this is a perfect slate where you don't play any low-risk contests and you just make a bunch of high-risk lineups, build around different narratives, and go that way. Because on FanDuel, we could try it as well, but we actually can't fit those 4 guys here either. Goff, Gibbs, because Goff is the most expensive player on the slate for some reason. And then Purdy, and then Guerendo's only $10,500, but that leaves only $4,500. If you look at what quote-unquote optimal projections tell you, is to leave out Goff and play Gibbs at MVP, and then just play Purdy and Guerendo, and then play 2 mid-range guys at 10K each, roughly 10K each. for low risk. But again, there's too much uncertainty here. Full advise not playing low risk contests tonight. Just stick to high risk contests and play some of these angles that we will talk about here now. All right, let's go back to DraftKings, get a water break, sip in, and then we'll talk about some of these angles. All right, unfortunately, no underperforming wide receivers tonight. Can't take advantage of Kyle Pitts' captain like I did last night, which that's just an achievement unlocked, by the way. It's been a long time coming to win some money with Kyle Pitts, and I did it last night. That feels like I should get a medal or a trophy or something. But anyways, no underperforming wide receivers for these two teams tonight. Let's talk about the defense. I just mentioned all those offensive line injuries. That is a salivating matchup for the Detroit Lions defense. Yet they're going to be like 11 or 12% owned on DraftKings, like 11, 12% owned on FanDuel. Now, maybe the industry catches word here and they get steamed up. I don't think so, given the high total and the close spread and the way the pricing is shaking out, where most people want to play multiple studs and punt at least one position. It's crazy. Versus this fake offensive line of San Francisco, they should be much, much higher. I think you have to strongly consider Detroit heavily in your lineups, their defense, especially just $4,400. It's not like they're 6K or something, which they should be probably in this matchup. If you think Detroit rest guys, and maybe you're right, Dan Campbell would tell you that he is not doing that. But the San Francisco defense is also under 20% owned. And they would be in a good spot if they're playing against the backup quarterbacks here. If that happens, I don't think it's going to happen. But again, if you're of the belief that Detroit doesn't play their guys full to this game, and that's what the spread and total is indicating, then you want to get some 49ers defense in your lineups as well. All right, I don't think it's going to happen, but let's talk about Detroit backups just in the event that they do rest guys or they mix these guys in more, because they would be on a classic slate, we wouldn't care about it that much, but on a showdown slate, every player is important. So if we look at their running backs, so Jahmyr Gibbs obviously just dominating opportunity without David Montgomery. Last week, they gave Craig Reynolds 10 opportunities, longtime running back 3 for the Detroit Lions. He seems like the safest of the group. He is $3,000, though. They priced him up a little bit. Then we have Sione Vaki, who we played in preseason DFS. He only played 5 snaps, but all 5 of his snaps, he ran a route. So give some pass catching upside if you decide to play Sione Vaki here at 2K. And then Jamar Jefferson, who's not currently on the active roster, they would have to elevate him from the practice squad by 4 p.m. Eastern today. So monitor our daily plug and the activations today. Jamar Jefferson, he played 5 snaps as well. We've played him in many times in preseason DFS. He's only $400. He could be somewhat popular if we get any word pregame. But all 3 of these guys at the backups are in play if you think that Jahmyr Gibbs is not going to play a full workload tonight. And even if he does, these guys could still get there just based on their price and how we might need a cheap player for tonight, and the fact that they'll all probably see 5-ish, maybe 10 snaps, depending on how the game shakes out. At wide receiver, obviously we have Jameson Williams, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, we have Tim Patrick as the top 3 receivers. For Detroit, as their backups, I think it would go like this. Allen Robinson would see backup snaps and replace Jameson Williams in the event that they rest Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So Allen Robinson, he's $800. And then Tom Kennedy, who we played more than maybe any other player in preseason DFS history. He's a slot guy. He would directly back up Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's min priced $200. So if Amon-Ra comes out early, it would likely be Tom Kennedy getting those slot snaps for Detroit. At tight end, obviously, it's Sam Laporta, number 1. They have Brock Wright, who's been running as their number 2 wide receiver or number 2 tight end all year. So he's an option as well. They also have Shane Zylstra. That's a tongue twister. He's been priced as well. Again, this is 150 lineup territory only. But again, if you're looking for backups, those are the guys on Detroit. And again, like I said, it's not like it's preseason where they have 90 guys on the roster and they can play a bunch of different guys. And if you remember our preseason DFS videos and our content, yeah, they would rest starters, and we still have like 4, 5, 6 tight ends to play. You can't do that during the regular season because of roster restrictions. So even if Laporta does rest, it's not like these guys are guaranteed to get any points. All right, if we talk about captains and MVPs here, there is relatively low ownership on non-Jahmyr Gibbs Detroit Lions players. We have Jared Goff at 7% projected captain ownership on DraftKings, like 15 or 16% MVP on FanDuel, which is still pretty low. Purdy, Jennings, Garendo, Debo, these 4 49ers players, based on industry projections, are all going to be higher than probably Amon-Ra St. Brown, definitely Jameson Williams, and definitely Sam Laporta, which is just mind-boggling to me when you look at the offensive line injuries and Detroit having this 26, 27-point team total. It just makes zero sense. And then you put in the fact that Jameson Williams is going to be lined up against a backup cornerback. He is one of the best high risk captains we could possibly see at 1 to 2%. Probably 2%, I would say, just to be fair. But again, under 5% for sure. 8K is going to have relatively low ownership. If they play out in this game, as they're expected to, and he gets a backup cornerback, I mean, wheels up for Jameson Williams. It's, again, I can't stress enough how crazy I feel looking at this slate and look at what everyone else is doing. So we have one or two ways it's going to go. Either we're going to be extremely right and we're going to win all the money tonight, or somehow the offensive line injuries don't matter. Somehow Detroit rest guys and San Francisco heavy lineups get there. Because that is the other angle here. Because of how the projections are shaking out, you look across the industry, the field is going to build San Francisco heavy tonight. Despite being 3.5 point underdogs, despite having absolutely zero offensive line, the majority of field lineups are going to be 4-2 San Francisco, maybe some 5-1s, definitely 3-3 with San Francisco captains. On FanDuel, we'll see some 4-1 San Francisco lineups. We'll definitely see a lot of 3-2 San Francisco lineups. The field, underwhelmingly, going to play Detroit heavy lineups. So if you play 3 Lions in a lineup on FanDuel, 4 lineups especially, you play 5 Lions in a DraftKings lineup, 4 Lions in a DraftKings lineup, it's already different, which is just, I can't stress enough how easy that is on a slate like tonight. It's crazy. Super crazy. If we talk about MVP on FanDuel, Gibbs is like 40-something%. I know it seems kind of crazy, but that is kind of tough to get away from, given his usage in a game where Detroit is expected to play their guys all the way through. If you believe that, and I think you should, then I feel like the best way is just to play Gibbs in most of your lineups at MVP and then get different in the flex spots. So many other ways to get different in flex. If you don't, if you're not the type to play a chalky MVP in your high risk contest, then you can play some of the other low owned, super low owned Detroit guys at MVP. I think that does it. I was just racking my brain looking at the spread and the total and all the information we have and just completely bamboozled by what the field is going to do in this game. Uh, Again, I got to say this, and I say this, every few videos. We're not going to be right every time, right? Despite the screenshots I showed you, despite all the great calls we've had in some of these videos, we're not going to be right all the time. We can only put our money in where we think we're right and try to play against the field. And this seems like one of the biggest edges I've seen in Showdown in a while. And typically those edges do pan out. So again, don't overextend your bankroll. Stick to high risk contests tonight. Play some of these angles. But again, I am curious to see what you think. Am I wrong in some capacity here? Let me know in the comments. Do you agree? If you're a San Francisco or Detroit fan, let us know what your thoughts are on this game tonight. But again, it's pretty nuts. So build Detroit heavy. Jameson at captain. San Francisco players are overvalued. Play Detroit defense if you believe all the things that I'm telling you in this video. Now, the daily plug will be up, OccupyFantasy.com. Link is in the description. It will be up after this video is posted. So by the time you finish watching, it'll be up on the site. Our writer Bismo will go through his rankings, his lineup construction tips for different contest types on DraftKings and FanDuel, some more overall slate notes and player usage notes. So go check that out for more in-depth info for the slate. Our model is already up with projected ownership and rankings for DraftKings and FanDuel as well. And our lineup builder, which is especially helpful on a slate like this where you can limit the number of 49ers players per lineup, build more rules if you put Detroit's defense in there. That's up and running, and I'll be using it extensively as I build my lineups. I used it last night to build the Kyle Pitts lineup. I use it every slate to build my showdown lineups. So if you want access to that, OccupyFantasy.com/lineup builder is where you can get access to that tool as well. Jack, who you see on the videos, he and I built that tool with all these rules and all of our showdown and short slate success in mind. So you can build lineups the way we build lineups. And you might have seen it flash up on screen here. I'll post it here at the end of the video. But our video that I did maybe a month or two ago, how to build showdown lineups using our builder and the Occupy way. You'll see that's about an hour-long video. If you haven't watched it already, go watch it to learn how to build profitable showdown lineups. So make sure you subscribe to get notified when all the playoff slates happen. Golf starts this week. If you're a golf fan, we'll be doing a weekly video for that. If you're not a golf fan, please don't unsubscribe. I know some of you, and rightfully so, you might get golf notifications or NBA notifications. You only care about the NFL videos. Just power through it. Help us stick to the subscribers we have here on YouTube. And just ignore those videos when they come out. But if you do play golf or you're into DFS and other sports, check out our golf video. That'll be dropping tomorrow. So Brian from Occupy, thanks for listening. Good luck. Try to make sense of and enjoy this crazy Monday night, Week 17 regular season finale